Li Ping Tong, welcome. So what's your assessment of the look and feel of the new Bureau website?
Look, there's some positives around it. It's visually cleaner, it's mobile friendly. I can see the intent of actually making the overall user experience more friendly. But then the navigation is problematic. So the overall information architecture on how the content is structured and prioritized, it isn't quite working at the moment because when people visit the BOM site, people usually want to see the immediate and the more critical information, current weather, rain radar, and warnings. But on the news side, these aren't really upfront. You have to kind of click to the different sections to access the basic weather information. And once you scroll down, you are met with news content and not localized or time-sensitive data. So it seems like the redesign was really focused on a much more cleaner interface, which is, I get that, but it's a fine line between that and oversimplification. So for a website like BOM, where the urgency and the clarity are absolutely key here, the content needs to be immediate. It has to feel intuitive, the interface, and it doesn't really just flow very well right now.
What about the Bureau saying it did a lot of testing and it received overwhelmingly positive feedback with research groups before it was launched?
Yeah, I remember seeing the beta testing started as far back as last year, and then it did receive like they say that it received positive feedback, which is good in theory. But the issue here is I wonder who was actually consulted here. So the testing groups and the user groups need to really reflect the full range of stakeholders. So from what we're seeing right now, it doesn't seem like the testing was broad or diverse enough. So in particular, it didn't really properly include rural users, I suspect, who depend on the site quite differently. They're more heavily and more frequently than city users, for example. So people in agriculture, like people that are living regionally, they need more of the higher resolution data. So those needs might have been underrepresented in the testing phase, I suspect. So I think that might have been problematic.
So do you look at this and say, it's obvious what should have been done and they didn't do it correctly or not?
Oh, yeah, I did. So the content layout, for example, it should have been clearer and much more prioritized by urgency and use case, especially with different users. So with the weather data, like the live data and storm alerts and rainfall, all of that should be the first thing that people see. So instead, it's currently buried under the more less essential content. And one of the key issues is with the weather map data is that the radar visuals have been oversimplified, I suspect. So the new color scheme looks visually cleaner, and I see the intent behind that. And perhaps is to make it more legible at a glance, but it comes at a cost of like detail and nuances because you can't really distinguish things like the hail risk of like the rainfall intensity, and these are really crucial for power users, especially like that are based in rural areas. Farmers, for example, they rely on information like that to make really important real-time decisions. So the previous radar graphics, I suspect, were more informative. I think that they were aiming for, again, better legibility on the news site, but that simplicity has came at the cost of like important data being lost, especially for users that rely on that level of detail, like in rural and regional users, for example.
And you're in a rural area yourself, so are you one of the millions of people who use the site every day and you saw it and thought it was, they'd missed the mark?
It is problematic. Like our neighbors, there's a lot of farmers around where I'm at. So I'm actually between urban and rural. So it's really important, and I'm quite affected by the change as well. So yes, indeed, very problematic. I can see why everyone's having a gripe at it at the moment.
And so how can the Bureau make this right now?
I think they need to bring more stakeholders into the process, especially for people from regional and remote and older users as well, and those who are using the site for work and safety critical purposes. And then to go through more phases of user testing, really identify where the points of friction are throughout the entire flow of the website, and observing how different people use the website, where they struggle, and then importantly to engage with their feedback. I would suggest they might consider rolling back and reintroducing features in much more smaller and staged updates rather than overhaul everything at once, because it's been a little bit problematic. The timing of the launch itself, I thought it was a bit unfortunate because rolling this out right now, as we are heading into summer and storm season, it really didn't give people enough time to learn the new interface and get used to it. And for a site that relies on emergency like that, that's a really big issue. So really trial things in phases and making sure that people have access to weather data in urgent situations and are comfortable in actually using the interface quite straightforward way.